Good day to you. As you've seen in the recruitment process, as a result of the recruitment efforts, you have an ideal set of candidates who really want to get inside your organization. Now, it is now your responsibility to find the most suitable candidate for your organization. How is that you're going to do this? Selection is a process by which you are going to filter the candidates and take them inside your organization. The overall aim of the selection process is to identify suitable candidates in alignment with their HR plan. You have received applications from 100 different candidates who are having interest to join your organization, but do they really fit inside your organization? And how are you going to check this so that there is no wastage in time and resource spent? The aim and objectives of selection process are to predict. Now, it is to predict the ideal candidate. You would never know who is the best fit for your organization, but it is an exercise to predict who is an ideal candidate. To compare, this gives you an option to compare the various options available to you. You can compare A versus B versus C. To inform. Now, selection process is to inform the objectives of the job to the applicant. It is an information exchange to give, as I said, to give best possible information and to create an impression. The selection process in itself is a brand building exercise wherein your image as an organization is boosted by the quality of your selection process. There is a systematic approach to selection. Once you posted an ad asking for applicants, then what happens is from left to right is a flow of steps which we need to follow. The initial steps, after you receive the applications, you need to acknowledge. As we mentioned earlier, the courtesy is the essence of the entire exercise. You have to respond to the applicants. Compare all the applications against the criteria which you've set in the recruitment advertisement. Now, sort the applications according to, you have to split them into 3 categories: possible, unsuitable and marginal. You can keep aside the unsuitable ones and concentrate on the possible ones. Scrutinize to a greater extent on the possible ones and shortlist them for interview. You have to communicate with the shortlisted candidates on the time, venue of the interview. Conduct the interviews, check the references and get on with the follow procedures like giving them an offer letter. So this is a systematic approach, when done in a perfect and professional manner, gives a satisfaction and your impression in the market goes higher. Now, what you need to take care in the entire process is something called the legal framework. You are not supposed to discriminate in either of these arenas when it comes to legal discrimination. Application forms. Make sure you don't ask questions which are discriminatory in nature and which is illegal. Medical references, where it is not required, do not ask them, especially of older workers, of their health history. This might be construed as discrimination. Interview procedures. You have to train your interview panelists to ask questions which are legal and they are not discriminatory in nature. Selection tests. You have to design and devise tests so that it is not being viewed as discriminatory practice to avoid a certain section of the people in the employment pool. So you have to be very cautious in designing the entire procedure, starting from your application forms till your selection tests. What are the selection methods in practice in business environment? Interviews. This is the most common form by which candidates are interviewed and the selection process happens. Evaluation of education and experience. Let us say for highly research oriented jobs, you have a heavy profile, say A, B, C. You compare their academic backgrounds, what is their experience. So that kind of selection test is also being practiced. Now, selection testing, background and reference checks. You have 2 ideal candidates. Say for example, you need to hire a cashier. So you obviously need to do a reference check because of the integrity and the seriousness of the job involved. So that is also a type of selection test. Biodata analysis. You ask the applicants to fill in multiple choice questions eliciting information about their family, their past experience, and you can try to identify the ideal candidate for the job. Handwritten analysis and biodata analysis. Handwritten analysis to a great extent reveals the personality type of the applicant. It is used in most of the developed countries to gauge the level of the person's characteristics in particular job environment. Group selection methods, to test the team skills, the leadership skills, and the interpersonal skills of the candidates. Group selection methods are also practiced. Physical medical testing, wherein the physical attributes of the job applicant is very essential. Physical tests are conducted so as to get the most healthy applicant who is suitable to carry on a particular type of job. Now, selection interviews. What are the different types of interviews? You have individual or one-to-one interviews, which is most common. You have panel interviews, and then selection boards. The most common form is the individual or one-to-one interviews, wherein one interviewer is present and one candidate is present. So there is more scope for one-on-one informal discussion, and the panelist or the interviewer, so to say, gets more time to have a formal discussion in a relaxed atmosphere. Panel interviews, wherein you have 2 or 3 members, one being a HR person and the other being the boss who is looking for a candidate. So there are 2 people involved and they have a better understanding, and it can be intimidating also at times to face 2 people who are analyzing different dimensions of an applicant. So the HR might test the language skills, the attitude of a particular applicant, and the boss will check his future recruit for the technical knowledge involved. Moving on to selection boards, you will have an entire panel of 5 to 10 members who are trying to evaluate a candidate in one single stroke. They might look for various factors, and the most suitable candidate is analyzed and judged through different varieties of questions. It can be intimidating to an applicant to face so many questions from so many different directions. So one potential disadvantage is that selection boards tend to concentrate more on well-dressed people who give a positive image. People who are slightly reticent may be considered as not suitable because they portray themselves as being less confident in handling different types of situations and handling multiple queries. Let's take a look at an ad.
Mr. Goodman? What makes you think you're qualified for this job?
Oh! Ah! Stop punching me!
Stop punching
Please!
me.
Don't throw me!
No, not the fish. Not
Don't touch me! Keep your hands off of me! Don't throw me out!
Nice.
Here it is, huh? Get it?
That was a hilarious ad. I'm sure you need a bunch of friends who can help you in the interview process like that. Now, what strikes in that ad is that the interviewer had no clue as to the performance of the candidate. It was a well thought out process to keep it on a lighter vein. But when you consider on the serious aspects of that ad, you need to have an idea of the candidates whom you are calling for interviews. So your shortlisting process is a very key aspect of your selection process.